Roscoe heard a sound that made him pause. Broom held at the arc of its sweep. It was a rumble that had almost lost its voice. A rumble Roscoe recognized, but wasn't quite right. It wasn't the usual drubbing of thick tire treads and spinning wheels launching bravely off wooden ramps, but a careful, thoughtful rolling sound. Wheels turning slowly, pausing, turning again. Roscoe looked up from where he was sweeping the patio and smiled. His monster truck was moving, but not the way it usually did. Caratina was guiding it carefully along the edge of the stone path, her paws steady and sure. She eased the truck around corners as though it were a mixing bowl that might spill if tipped too quickly. When it reached the smallest ramp, she stopped and adjusted the monster truck so it sat squarely in front of it. Then, with an intake of breath, she sent the truck over at a measured pace. The truck made it down safely, bouncing just a little on its huge tires. Caratina nodded, satisfied. "That's a good speed," she said. Roscoe leaned on his broom and watched. Nearby, Millie Moonbeam sat cross-legged with a small pile of Floyd's wooden blocks in front of her. Instead of stacking them high, she was laying them flat, side by side, choosing shapes as carefully as colours. Every so often she paused to look at the pattern forming, then adjusted one block by the smallest amount. Floyd was on the grass with Berry's farmyard animals. There were sheep in pens and coops for hens, and a donkey greeting a cow. He wasn't trotting the animals about or making any sounds. There was nary a neigh, a cluck, or a moo. Instead, he was grouping them neatly, counting quietly under his breath, then rearranging them into tidy little rows. Berry, meanwhile, was at the low garden table with Caratina's kitchen things. Tiny spoons and bowls were lined up beside the toy kettle. Crockery was stacked and pans were packed one inside the other. Berry picked up a ladle, then began serving invisible portions of pea and mint soup to an invisible group of field mice. Roscoe set the broom aside and wandered over. "I see it's one of those afternoons," he said. The bunnies looked up, cheerful and calm. "We thought it might be," said Millie Moonbeam. "It's a good day for it." "We're playing the swap game," Berry added. "The try it your way game," said Floyd. Roscoe nodded. He knew that game. Every now and then, usually on days when the light lingered just a bit longer, the bunnies liked to choose something familiar and hand it to someone else, just to see what happened. "No rush," Caratina said, still watching the monster truck. "Just trying." Roscoe sat down on the warm stone step. "Well," he said, "if I may, I'd like to show you how it usually goes." He lifted the monster truck and set out the ramps further apart, one short, one steep, one with a gentle curve. He sent the truck racing over them, wheels rumbling on the stone path, and this time they'd found their voice. And just like that, the monster truck landed and skidded to a halt, Roscoe accompanying the action with little revving sounds and a miniature screech when it stopped. The bunnies watched closely, enthralled by the monster truck jump. Then Roscoe handed the truck back to Caratina. Millie Moonbeam showed her sketchbook to the bunnies, pointing out how she liked to fill a page slowly, leaving room for the picture to unravel and find its own way to the corners and edges. Floyd showed Millie Moonbeam how the blocks balanced best when the wider ones went underneath. Berry demonstrated how the animals liked to move together, never leaving anyone behind. Then the toys returned to their new paws. Caratina tried again. This time she sent the truck over the ramp a little quicker, not fast, but more confidently. She lined the ramps up in a neat row, adjusting their distance as though measuring ingredients. "It's like a recipe," she said thoughtfully. "If you change the order, you get something different, something you might not expect." Millie Moonbeam began stacking the blocks, but not into towers. She arranged them into shapes that reminded her of drawings. Long lines, careful corners, spaces left open on purpose. Meadows bordered by hedges, hills topped with little villages, and rivers flowing and meandering wherever they fancied. "These ones feel like mountains," she murmured. Floyd gathered the farm animals and began building them a home using the blocks Berry had set aside earlier. Low walls, a sturdy doorway, everything balanced just so. Berry poured pretend tea for the cows and gingerly placed a spoon on their saucers. "Milk and sugar? Perhaps a biscuit. I've got some delicious custard creams. And for the sheep, a slice of cake, I think. Just the thing." Roscoe watched it all unfold. The toys hadn't forgotten what they were. The truck still rolled, the blocks still stacked, the animals still belonged together. But they were learning new ways, and everything seemed quite content about that. After a while, Caratina launched the monster truck off the steep ramp, just like Roscoe had, just once, and laughed when it landed slightly sideways with a bump and a bounce. "That one surprised me," she giggled. Millie Moonbeam added one last block to her pattern and smiled. Floyd adjusted the barn roof. Berry wiped the edge of a tiny bowl with care. Eventually, the toys were set down between them. No one was in a hurry to swap back. "I think," Roscoe said after a moment, "that toys don't mind how they're played with, as long as someone's paying attention." The bunnies thought that sounded about right. They returned the toys to their usual owners. Roscoe left the ramps lined neatly beside the truck. Millie Moonbeam kept one smooth block near her sketchbook. Floyd left the barn standing. Berry hummed as he stacked the kitchen things, already thinking of his next recipe. The afternoon settled. Later, as the light softened and the garden grew quiet again, the bunnies gathered at the kitchen table. Berry fetched a jug of elderflower cordial. Caratina brought the curly straws. Floyd took a plate of cheese from the larder, and Millie Moonbeam opened the tin of crackers. Would anyone like some soup? No, just cheese and crackers for me. I might have a piece of Bakewell tart later, said Millie Moonbeam. Righty-ho, good idea, Berry replied. The bunnies nattered quietly about the fun they had had. The Try It Your Way swap day was always a resounding success. As the evening drew to a close, Roscoe sat back in his armchair, a blanket warming his tumblington, and listened. The cottage was settling, content and holding old toys that now felt new and ready for another day. Play hadn't ended. It had simply found a few more ways to begin. All was snug. All was well. Night, night.